Hi, everybody. My name's Kris Moe, and I'm with Horizon M&A, and we help sellers find good buyers. So basically, I'm a matchmaker. I've been doing this for 10 years. I'm based in Marin. I'm a Marin Builders Association member. Thanks for jumping on, and I'm going to get right into the slideshow. That's going to kind of guide us along on essentially the steps that you can start taking now to start getting yourself ready to sell your business. And let me see if I can find my darn, uh, there we go. So hopefully you can see my screen there. So I'm Kris Moe. I live in Larkspur, and I'm just going to get right into what's going on right now. So we do have a lot of uncertainty. And of course, when there's uncertainty, there's always opportunity. But with what's happening with interest rates and things, let's face it, it's got to be a concern for everybody. Still, we're plodding forward as business does. So I'll tell you, whether you're looking to retire shortly or you're thinking you're 45 years old and it might be out there a ways, it's not a bad idea to listen to what I have to say today because there'll be some little nugget that's going to help you uh, plan better for your eventual exit. And by the way, some of this is going to also include information. So I work with trade companies, solar companies, roofing companies, HVAC. They might want to acquire an adjacent service. It's a great idea. So let me just take you through some of the things that buyers are looking for, and also what you can do to start preparing to exit. I usually focus on businesses that are big enough where investors like private equity are interested. They love trades because trades are critical. Electrical, roofing, plumbing, I don't care if it's commercial or residential. If there's a problem, it needs to be fixed. Solar, not quite as critical. Uh, but still, I'll throw that into the trades. It's getting action. Still, some things are up in the air right now with some of the credits being taken away, but we won't go too far off course here. Private equities, typically what they're doing is they're buying a platform company in that space, and then their plan is to try to roll in complementary businesses to what that platform is. Private equity is usually looking to hold on to businesses for 4, 5, 6, 7 years and then sell it to a bigger fish. So they're usually commonly have a criteria of what they are willing to offer sellers, and that's kind of what we're going to go through today. But just an example, I'm working with a landscaping private equity right now, and their sweet spot is companies that are doing 500,000 to 3 million in EBITDA, which is profit plus what it would cost to bring in a general manager and pay them. That's what EBITDA stands for. Or what EBITDA really stands for is earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. So that's what they're usually looking to pay. You want to position your business so it's going to be on the high end of that valuation multiple. And who knows, sometimes they might even stretch beyond that. But that's usually each one of these guys have a criteria or parameters they're willing to buy a company for. So my job is to help these guys find those companies. So when I have a landscaping company that I think will be interesting to them, I reach out to a lot of buyers, and then I establish a relationship with these buyers. Even if a deal falls apart, they'll say, "Hey, Kris, keep us in the loop. If you find another one, this is what we're looking for." So I'm building relationships with buyers like that. And I'm also building relationships with guys like you in the Builders Association. And I'm also a member of the Association for Solar Companies. I go to chapter meetings. So I am essentially strengthening my relationships with these guys, building trust so they could ask me, hey, Kris, what's the market like right now? Hey, Kris, I'm thinking about doing this. Can you give us some advice or coaching to what we should be doing? And that's what these webinars are going to be doing. All these building services are super hot right now. With AI coming in and essentially doing away with quite a few automated jobs or jobs that can be done with computers or AI, whether that's accounting, whether that's legal. Uh, th they've also becoming less enamored with software, at least at this time. This is tangible, and it's predictable. It's a really good investment for these types of companies. Everything is being electrified. I think you guys all know that. So if you're in HVAC, electrical, solar, what doesn't require electrification these days? If anything, we know we have a shortage of, qualified electrical technicians out there, and that's hopefully something that's going to be eventually uh, more recruiting to junior colleges or however we can get younger people into that trade, the better. Why? As I said earlier, it's essential. It's also when you get in, investors love the fact that when you've um, fixed a leaky roof, a leaky pipe, most likely that customer is going to call you back. That relationship can go for decades. And it's recession resistant, which is a huge advantage over so many other businesses like semiconductor or manufacturing. There's ups and downs. If someone's got a leaky roof, they want it fixed. They don't, more important than probably so many other expenses, but that's one they're going to take care of. Same with, if electrical's not working. Let's get right into, what you might not know that you should, and some of the deal killers. This is the biggest one. I can't emphasize this enough. Messy financials. It's it's a non-starter almost right off the bat. If you can't come up with 3 years of profit and loss statements, ideally you got this in QuickBooks or something like that. They're going to want to see monthlies for probably 3 to 5 years. Uh, they're going to want to see your balance statement. So these are all the first level of due diligence. Of course, you have to be profitable. Of course, you have to be in an interesting market that's growing, and that's why you guys are watching this. You're in the trade, so you're in a good industry. Um, but I can't tell you how many deals have fallen apart, and now I don't even take if if I ask you, hey Kris, what do you think the value of my business is? The first thing I'm going to ask you is for your profit and loss statements. I don't really have to see your tax returns, but I'll look at the profit and loss statements. The tax returns are a bonus. Ideally, those are pretty similar, and we'll get into that as well. Nobody likes a lot of what we call add backs. So add backs is, hey, I took my whole family to Hawaii and it cost $22,000 but we called it a business expense. That's going to kind of, if there's too many of those types of write-offs, it's a red flag. So take care of your books. Let me just go a little deeper into this. If you're doing, I'd say a million or more in your EBITDA, I think it's worthwhile to have somebody have a look at your business, an audit by a third party. No matter how good you think your accounting is, it's really good to have an outside party look at your books. I'll be one of those outside parties, hopefully. And I might say, wow, your books look great because everything is reported on your tax return. Or I might say, you know what, this would really benefit you. If you're a smaller company like that 1 million profit size, 10 million or less in revenues, that's called a quality of earnings. And that's going to cost you 15, 20 grand. It's a lot of money, I understand, but if you're looking to sell your business, this scrutiny by this third party, and I can refer a few of these companies that do that, will smooth out the whole process of due diligence with your financials. It's a huge deal to do that. In the past, the buyers would do that. Some bigger companies, oh my goodness, they might spend 150 grand on their quality of earnings. That's not unheard of. So a smaller company, uh, it's going to be less. If you're a bigger company, a little bit more complex, it's going to, it might be 40 or $50,000 for that. But if it helps expedite the whole process of due diligence, and it'll most likely even help you get a better offer when it's clean books, as in it's clean books from what the buyers want to see, not clean books from the money somebody's, doesn't want to pay the government. We want to have that third party quality of earnings look. Second one, owner dependency. If you're doing everything, well, then you're probably gonna have to stick around for a while after the transaction happens, and you're gonna have to, it might be 2 or 3 years, and you might be fine with that. Most people would like to get out of the business, but if you're so tied into every aspect of decision making in the company, then you're going to have to start training somebody to take the reins or bring somebody from the outside. And as you know, that'll probably take 6 months to a year to train them up to where that buyer, who very likely could be in New York City or another, part of the country, they're quite often they're not going to come out and run the company. They expect this machine to keep on running. So find a way of phasing out gradually. So you're just doing strategy. You're out playing golf, you're having a good time sailing or whatever, while the company is chugging along doing what it's supposed to. This one's pretty obvious. Take care of, anything that is a red flag. And that's kind of why you want to reach out to someone like myself to look at your business. I can help comb out some of the initial little issues that can be smoothed out that a buyer won't have to discover. Ideally, you have, everything kind of recorded. You Again, to make the transition smoother, whether they're videos or binders of, good processes of how you do things, people like that, buyers like that. Key employees, we want to see, hopefully your key employee isn't 84 years old. Hopefully your key employees are loving what they're doing. And at some point you'll have to reveal to them that you're looking at selling the company. And you might have to come up with a retention bonus for them. That's something that quite often when an exit happens, the owner will set aside some money to kind of shower his key people with a thank you. And he also knows that their continuing in the business is a huge part of this of the sale going through. You can imagine how important that is. Um, let's get into valuation killers. As I said, there's usually a value. Um, the multiples let me go backwards for a second. So let's just say the multiple for most businesses is about 3.5 times your EBITDA to upwards to 7 times. Could be even more the bigger your company is. But what this really is, that's just kind of a rule of thumb. I mean, that we all go by. The buyers are, hey, what's the EBITDA? But what's tied in with that is also what's your backlog? There's a value to that. Big difference between $500,000 in backlog and $15 million in backlog. That's got a value. Quite often that value is the backlog multiplied by your gross margin. Let's say that's 30%. So if you got close to 10 million in backlog, that's worth roughly 3.5 million in backlog. Um, In the sale, you'll keep the cash almost always. There might be some left in the business as working capital, but what they're buying is they're buying your backlog, they're buying your inventory, and a reasonable amount of inventory. You might be light, you might be heavy, but what the average has been over the last 12 months. And they'll want to see the monthlies to get that average. They're also looking at, there's a value on your vehicles and equipment. Let's face it, some businesses, piling companies or whatever have huge, cranes or equipment. They might have $10 million in equipment, and other businesses, not so much. Almost all your businesses have numerous trucks. They're going to want to see, the mileage on each truck. They're going to, so that's important. There's old fleets, there's new fleets, and hopefully there's a nice balance there as well. Um, what else are they buying? They're buying your relationships. They're buying your backlog. They're buying your team. They're buying your reputation. All those things have a value, and they come pretty darn close to that multiples I was talking about. So sometimes one is off. Again, if you have an exorbitant backlog, like 25 million, which is lopsided for what the EBITDA is, there'll be kind of a blend of those things. Every buyer kind of has their own way of valuing companies, but the most common one is what I'm mentioning, but they want to see your balance sheet, how good your lease or real estate situation is. Is it in a good location? All those things have a value. There's a value on your talent, your bench, how good these people are. I mean, there's ordinary teams and there's extraordinary teams. So you're always obviously trying to improve all those things. This in solar, 24 was a horrible year for almost all the solar companies, at least in the residential side. It's made it really hard to sell those companies. So ideally, and this might be the timing of you selling your business. It's a lot harder to sell your business when it's on the downturn. That's why you really want to have gas in your tank as an energy. You don't want to be selling this when you can barely get out of bed. You want your company consistently trending on the upward side. Um, but business owner or buyers don't want to see this. Hey, well, we did 25 million 3 years ago, but yeah, but you did last year, you did 5 million. You want to flip that around. It's better to be consistent. 18 million one year, 19 million the next year, 20 million the next year. You'd rather have that than this up and down effect. Um, yeah, how's your backlog? Just super important. And your pipeline. Hopefully you got lots of bids out there that are, at this, 80% level of getting, a contract. That's all going to be scrutinized, your WIP, work in progress. So stay on top of that. But these are what makes a business on the high end evaluation or the low end. Recurring revenue in the trades, probably not as much. Heck, I just had literally the Clark guy, the bug guy, come by my house. That's a recurring revenue. I mean, he comes by every 3 months. If you can find a way of doing that in your business, I know locally I have my plumbing company. They do a regular, water heater, flush, but it gives them an excuse to come back to my house for whatever, $150, and they usually find other things they can do. So reoccurring is great for any business. If you don't have that, heck, be creative and find a way. In solar, the recurring comes from cleaning solar panels. Doesn't make a ton of money, but it keeps you sticky or in contact with your customers. That's always a good thing because at the very least, they're thinking about you and might refer you, at a cocktail party or whatever. Timing. Yeah, the timing is it's everything. But let's just see, it seems to me in the last 10 years, there's always been something going on. So again, all you can do is just keep on running your business, making adjustments, doing the best you can. You can't really control what's on the outside so much, but sometimes if something is just horrible, it's going to be harder to get offers, and that's you got to be realistic. So this one might be just as a nice comparison of what's a good business versus a really good business or valuable asset from the buyer's perspective. Um, a good business is profitable, but the founder's too involved. Um, the processes are kind of informal. They haven't been put in a binder or videotaped. So someone can't just come in and train people really quickly with your processes. Ideally, you have more than one revenue stream. There's uh, I know with the solar companies I'm working with, I love if they have some commercial, or I love when commercial has a little bit of residential. It's probably the same for you guys. Some guys just focus on residential, and some just focus on commercial. Um, but if there's a way you can come up with another offering to your customers that will just kind of help you when there's a lull. Uh, well, you just don't want to have one-off sales. Ideally, you have a reason to go back and visit that customer, more and more. Um, on the right side, you're seeing the scalability and the owner is not as involved. So it's just to the right side, you're seeing all the things that buyers would love to see. So buyer focus metrics to highlight. This is kind of just reiterating what we've talked about. This is always kind of a red flag. The customer concentration is probably not as big a deal in construction or the trades. There are some companies that might do all their work with one general contractor or just too much of it. Whenever it gets above 20% with one client, it's kind of a problem, but not something that can't be overcome. But it's nice to be diversified, whether it's with your vendors and your key customers. Management depth is gigantic. We got into that. The age of your equipment, if everything is super old and the buyers have to come in and spend a few million just to bring you back up to speed, then that's going to lower the valuation. Uh, AR health, I think that's kind of obvious. I mean, if you got stuff out there for 120 days, and that's going to be a little bit of a red flag and could bring the value down. Geographic footprint. Let's face it, in the trades, it's regional. Um, so at the same time, if you got a really good team and it's set up to be kind of a platform for the buyers to grow off of, then that could be another reason why it's so great to have a really strong team with a lot of experience, good management. Going back to backlog again. So I'm going back. I haven't looked at this in a while. So add service divisions. Well, this is just diversifying, or not just diversifying, but making it so you can have more recurring revenue. Bundled offerings. I'm excited about this one. I love the idea of solar companies buying roofing companies. I love the idea of solar companies bringing in HVAC, um, and electrical maybe buying solar. So when you go to the customer, you say, "Oh, by the way, we also do roofing." It's kind of where things are going with these larger investors. They have a roofing group, they have a solar group, and it's synergistic. So that's just something to think about in your own business. I'm seeing more and more trades. Locally, I know of my electrical company. They do plumbing now. So, and they do HVAC. Oh my goodness. So, maintenance subscriptions, kind of mentioned that earlier. I think it's a good idea. Flushing water heaters, checking solar panels or whatever, and then charging. And it doesn't have to be a lot, but the idea is just to keep the contact with the customer. So this would be an example of just how the valuation can go up. So a basic roofing company, let's say doing, let's say 5 million in revenue and maybe, let's just say 15% in EBITDA. Let's just make it simple. It's 10% EBITDA. So roughly a $500,000. So 500,000, his business would be worth 1.5 million to 2 million, somewhere in that range. But if they happen to have, in addition, other services, um, uh, that multiple, because of this, these added extras here, the multiple could go up, you see, 4.5 to 6.5. So that's kind of what you're doing. What can you do? A simple example. It's like you've a house. If you not so much landscaping, but you put on a nice deck or whatever, you're adding value to the house. Um, this is kind of saying the same stuff, so I'll just kind of go through this pretty quickly. Um, so in summary, this is what we're looking for. Get your financials in order. Uh, Quite often smaller businesses, less than 10 million, they've had the same accounting firm that is great, maybe um, looking at your stuff and just reporting, for tax purposes, but they might not be the best for getting your books in order for an investor to be looking at your financials from their eyes. Um, Documented systems, great leadership team. Ideally, you're training up your people. They're continuing to get better at what they do because that's just adding value to your overall operation. And then, uh, strategically, a plan that maybe you don't want to go through, but you have a plan, ideas on what you might do to, add 20% the following year or 2 years out. Whether that's sales or, more efficiencies with, these incredible softwares now with watching over your customers, all that stuff can add value. So finally, I'll just, I'm happy to get in touch with you. You can call me. You can corner me at our Marin Builders golf tournament or whatever. I love playing golf, so happy to go out and play golf with you and talk about this stuff, or just meet for coffee. And essentially, I'm living this. This is what I do. I every day I'm talking to buyers. I'm talking to sellers. Uh, the market it's like the weather. It's changing all the time. So if nothing else, you have me to talk to because I am a meteorologist of business. So value optimization, what you can possibly be doing to be on the higher end of that multiple. I'm talking to buyers, what they're looking for. Some buyers, it's you don't want the buyer that is just looking at your books. You want the buyer that's seen the intangibles in businesses, and that's usually the team, the market, the products, time in the market, all those things. Everything can be tweaked a little bit to be better and more valuable. So you can reach me here. You can call me. Here's my cell or email me. And then on my, at the website, horizonmaa.com, you can go to our team. I'm part of a team based out of Campbell, and we specialize in different areas. I'm more the trades guy in our company. We have we have others that are focusing on machine shops. We have others that are focusing on IT. So thanks for watching this, and hopefully I'll get across paths with you, and I hope I can help you with your plan to exit your business.